Hi everyone, welcome to the Money Master HQ show. We are having the second episode today, and your guest today is Scott Allan, who is a multiple time author. I think he's done some amazing job in this area. Some of the books that he's written are on doing the hard things first, and I guess it's a series, Scott. So, where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling in from Osaka, Japan. I've been living here for about 26 years.
Nice. I assume it's a bit late in the day for you.
It's around 10 p.m. Yeah. So if you're East Coast, it's probably about 9 a.m. for you.
I got it. Okay.
I think you're calling in from Dubai, correct?
That's right, yes. For me, it's around 5 in the evening. How would you introduce yourself, Scott?
Yeah. So my name's Scott Allan. I am a publisher and content creator and author, entrepreneur, and probably a few other things. But for the most part, that's what I do is I create content, courses, and I teach people the frameworks that I discuss in my books. Most of my books are focused, well, all of them are really around self-help and personal development. And as you mentioned, a few of the titles are Do the Hard Things First. Yes, that is a series currently with 3 books. The fourth one is coming out soon. Fail Big. And one of the books that we're setting up now to come out the end of April is called Empower Your Wealth, which may be a good topic for today, seeing as we're talking about money.
Great. I also see that you've been a corporate business trainer previously.
That's correct. So when I came to Japan way back in probably 98 or 99, I began working for a company that would send us to other bigger companies. So I would go to Panasonic, Toyota, a lot of companies actually. And what I would do in these companies is I would teach their overseas business people, how to travel overseas and conduct themselves in different cultures. Not that Japanese people needed those kinds of lessons from me. They conduct themselves very well, but when it came to the cultural aspects of things, they just needed to that kind of training. So I did a lot of training around that, and a lot of it was also on ways to you know improve your confidence in a business meeting or how to master self discipline, things like that. Again, many of the people that I was working with actually were some of them were the CEOs of the companies, and some of them were founders, CEOs. A lot of them were, they held executive positions in the corporations, so they already knew, a lot about. They've been all over the world. A lot, some of them. So anyway, yeah, my job was very interesting at the time. It was, I really enjoyed delivering some very good content to the executives and having them to, apply it overseas was really interesting. Yeah, um, for the most part, um, the reason I left that job is because I decided to pursue writing full time. So,
Nice. So, some of those areas I think we're going to touch upon today while
mm,
discuss. But before we get into that discussion, how is it like living in Japan, and how did you get there in the first place?
so yeah, great question. So before I came to Japan, I'm from Canada originally. So I was living in Vancouver at the time, working as an electrical engineer, which is my probably one of my first backgrounds. And I made a decision that I wanted to change my lifestyle. So after spending some time writing out my goals, and I created a vision board, and I got very clear on what it is that I really wanted to do with my life. And there were a few things that I had on my list. And the first thing was to become an author. So I have always been in love with books. I wrote my first book when I was probably 14 or 15. It was, I think I started out writing fiction, but eventually, transferred over into nonfiction. I love self help, personal development, which for reasons I can get into later. But when I decided to come to Japan, I had already found a job. I found a company that I mentioned had eventually they would send me out to these other businesses, but they had hired me from overseas to come over and How I found it was rather interesting. Just a quick story. I was looking in the newspaper one day, came across an advertisement for a company that was looking to hire overseas. I sent in a resume, and about a month later, I found myself in a hotel in downtown Vancouver having dinner with a Japanese businessman who was interviewing people for the position. So they selected me as one of three people to come over. So yeah, once they decided that, I think I had about 6 months to prepare. And once I came over here, I was making pretty good money. Uh, had a pretty good job. They set me up with a house and a car and everything. So I was pretty determined to stay. I didn't plan on going back. My career as an engineer was good. It's just that I'd found something that was, I think, more along the lines of what I wanted to do. So the writing came later, but yeah, I think that coming here was just a great way for me to immerse myself into a different culture as well. So
How do you manage it with the language and stuff? Or did you learn Japanese?
I did not learn it at all. So I actually got into the language right away. Almost as soon as I got off the airplane, actually, I started taking Japanese lessons, and the company that I was working for actually provided those lessons to anybody who worked with their corporation, which was really good. So I was probably practicing like every day, and a lot of the language, like learning the language, really is learning from books is one thing, but a lot of it's really just finding yourself in situations where you have to learn it. So, for example, going to the bank, going to the tax office, or the public office. So before I went to these places, I would study the vocabulary and the phrases and the language that I needed in order to communicate with, the staff. Or if I was going to a company, I was always prepared that they did not have strong language, like English language skills. And um, that was just an assumption I made, but in most cases, it was. I think it just helped me to accelerate in the language. I'm fairly fluent these days. I've been here for a while, but there's always room for improvement when it comes to learning a new language. But the other important thing about that, though, is that it did open up a lot of opportunities for me for jobs. Meeting new people, relationships, everything. So yeah, it's definitely something that I'd recommend to anybody. If you go to another country and English is not their primary language, assuming that your language is English, then just, get into some lessons right away and start to learn it. It was definitely a game changer. So,
Nice. Aside from all this serious stuff, Scott, how do you spend your day in terms of leisure and entertainment?
well, I'll start with leisure. I think it's really hard for me to pull myself away from my work. So, even on my, technically my holidays would be, let's just say Saturday and Sunday, like most people. But, as an entrepreneur, or, running your own business, your company, it's very tempting to just work at it every day, because I find that to be, depends what I'm working on. But if I'm working on something that's creative, like creating new content or a framework for training, I find that to be somewhat relaxing. So I do find myself, during my time off, actually working on things. But when I relax, though, or get into, settle down for the week, well, it doesn't have to be the weekend. During the week as well. But I like to go take little trips to places around Japan, like Kyoto. I live near Kobe, and there's like lots of places we can go to. And the great thing about living here is that the transportation is excellent. It's just amazing. So, I'm 5-10 minutes from the train station. You get to the train station, you're on a bullet train. You're on a bullet train, you can pretty much be, I'm like 3 hours from Tokyo, which is, I think it's like 1,500 miles. It's quite far from where I am, but I can be there in 3 hours. I can be at I'm outside of Osaka, so I can be at Osaka within 20 minutes, and basically like any major city. So, but yeah, I love traveling, uh, reading books, of course, listening to audiobooks, and spending time with my kids. They're 16. My daughter's 16, boy's 14. So, we'll just spend time going to the movies and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think it's important, that you do. take time out for family and for yourself because again, is when you're running your own show, it's easy to just spend most of your time working because you feel like that's what you have to be doing, And I love working, but you do have to take time out for yourself, or else you burn out, and that's not it's not a good way to scale up your business, and it ends up costing you money, not making you money. So.
That's true. You did mention about listening to audiobooks and reading books and stuff. What are some of the best books that you've read or listened to?
Yeah. Right now, I'm listening to an amazing book. It's called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. I highly recommend it. Um, and you don't have to be, a business owner to appreciate this book. You just have to be somebody who wants to take control of your time. So I definitely would recommend that book. The other audiobook, I usually have 3 or 4 going at the same time, but the other audiobook is Killing Sacred Cows. Amazing book if you want to really learn about money. And it's not about, how to invest your money or cryptocurrency or anything like that. It's really the bulk of that book is how to deal with the scarcity mindset that holds a lot of people back. So Killing Sacred Cows, and he has a follow-up to that book called Disrupting Sacred Cows, which I'm going to be starting that very soon as well. I think that's more of a second and like a follow-up to the first book, but I would definitely recommend those books as well. There's so many great books and audiobooks out there. But those are some of the books that I'm currently listening to. So I tend to listen to a lot of audiobooks, I think, that are related to business, yeah, financial wealth, and um, sometimes I'll listen to, yeah, like a lot of business books or occasionally fiction, but that's more or less just to break away from, listening to business books all the time can get a little bit monotonous. And I think that when you read a book or you listen to a book, you have to take that knowledge and you have to apply it, because it's one thing to learn these things, but it's another thing to apply it. You really have to implement it in your life. Otherwise, knowledge without action is just useless, right? So, that's just something I always reminding myself is that when I learn these things, I'm always taking notes as well. So, always making notes, bullet points, action tips, things that I want to follow up on. And that's the only way you can measure your results. So,
I think those are some really great tips. And yes, I'd love to buy back my time for sure. So I think I'll definitely be listening to that book.
yeah.
So thank you for those great tips, Scott. I think that nicely brings me on to the mindset stuff that you do. Now, how did you get into the mindset mastery and training? And we'll discuss about mindset in a bit. But just curious to know, how did you get into that sort of an area?
Well, yeah. So when it comes to mindset, I think another term for mindset is really consciousness, right? So, we all know, we've all heard about, the negative mindset, the abundance mindset, the gratitude mindset. There's actually a lot of different types of mindsets, right? So you can really pick your flavor. But for me, I think mindset mastery is really about taking control of your actions, right? To begin with. Because when you're clear on what your goals are, actually start with that. When you're clear on what your goals are, your mindset is what you can align. So you're actually aligning your actions to move towards your goals. But your mindset has to be, think of it as the driver that's pushing everything forward. And a part of what makes up mindset is actually clarity, right? Clarity on what it is that you really want to do, and that's a struggle. Like that's been a real battle for me, just getting clear, because I have lots of ideas, and I try to take action on most of them, and then I end up spreading my focus. The focus is going in like 9 different directions, right? And really, it can only go in one direction. So one of the things that I do to align my mindset with my goals and to be crystal clear on what they are. And this is something you have to practice, I think, every day, right? And I'll get into some couple of strategies on how to align your mindset. But one of them is actually writing things down in a journal. So I have several journals around, And that's the first thing I do in the morning after waking up. Do a quick, well, not the first thing, but the first thing I'll do is 10 or 15 minutes of stretching and exercise. And then I'll spend, another 15 minutes journaling, just writing out what my goals are for that day, but also what my higher level goals are as well. Right. Just being very clear on what the priorities are. And this comes back to, like when your mindset is uh, clear on what it is that you need to do, you're also, you feel like, there's, like your mind is clear, right? So what I mean by that is that we all have, 50,000 thoughts every day, right? And if we're not clear on what it is that we're moving towards, those thoughts are just taking over. Like, your thoughts are just running rampant. So one of the things I do for my mindset is meditation, which is that's no big surprise. I think everybody knows what meditation is, um, but I think very few people actually practice it consistently, and that's really the key. Is part of your mindset actually comes from the meditation because the meditation is a way for you to sit down and just get comfortable with observing your mind. That's all meditation is. I mean, it can be a few more things than that, but in a nutshell, I think that meditation is, if you. So I actually, I do studies in mastery and Zen Buddhism, and they teach us to clear our mind of all thoughts and everything and observe your thoughts. But I think that outside of that, one of the things I use meditation for really is to, yes, observe my mind, but also to create a new mind from that. So you probably heard of, people talking about creating a second brain and, reinventing your mind and reinventing your mindset. That's really what I use meditation for is to observe the current mindset that I have, but be conscious of the new mindset that I want to create. Because if you can do that, then over the course of days and weeks and months to come, you're going to start to. It's not just a feeling; it's like you know when you're on track with something, right? You'll start to observe when you have a negative thought about something, and you can go, "Oh, there's that thought again," and you can actually shut it down, right? And when you're able to do that again and again and again, you start to rewire your mind. And that's how you can build the mindset that you want instead of the mindset that is, you might get through default, So the default mindset is just what is like the reactionary mindset, the reactionary mind where we're just reacting to everything. And we just lose, I guess you can call it losing control of your mind, actually, right? So you want to gain control of your mind by building this mindset. Now, the reason I got into this, by the way, is because I think this has to come from a place of pain. I think every time all growth comes from a place of pain, really. A place where you're in a place where um, you don't want to be there anymore. So what I mean by that is, it's maybe you're stuck in a bad relationship or you're in debt or whatever it is and you decided like I don't want to be in this situation anymore. So in order to change it, you do have to change your mind around how you're doing things, right? And once you can do that, then you can begin to work on the action steps needed to start to get a different result, and change the outcomes.
Would you agree to if I say that it's mostly 80% about mindset when you want to achieve anything, and it's about 20% on the rest in terms of the hows and the whys and so on?
I absolutely agree. Yeah, because the thing is, you can be working on something and working really hard on it, but if you're working on the wrong thing, it's not going to matter. And I think when it comes to mindset, actually, I just want to bring up the scarcity mindset again because that was a really important revelation for me, actually, that I had in the last year because the scarcity mindset, and just to define what that is, scarcity mindset is when you always feel like no matter how much you have, it's never enough, right? And you're always just, well, that's part of it. You always feel like you never have enough. And the other part of it is you always go for the cheapest thing, So, give an example like whenever I go shopping, even if I have lots of money in my pocket, I will always choose the cheapest thing on the shelf because, first of all, I lie to myself and convince myself that I'm getting a bargain when in fact I'm buying the cheapest thing that's probably going to break tomorrow. Right. But this was just part of my scarcity mindset is that I don't deserve the thing that is more expensive. So I'm just going to buy the cheap thing and hope that I can use it as long as I can. And that's only a problem if you observe it as a problem. And for me, it was because here's the catch. I never wanted the cheap thing to begin with. I just felt like that's what I deserved. So that's what I kept on. And it didn't matter if it was clothing, cars, anything, stationary objects, I'd always get the cheapest thing. And what I noticed is that my scarcity brain was always looking for ways to save money. But that's where the catch came in because I wasn't actually saving money. I ended up probably spending more money on having to buy more of those cheaper things because if I bought the thing that was actually more quality, I would have been using it the same thing like, for years and years to come. So anyway, the scarcity mindset was a big change for me. And when I started to observe that it was actually controlling so much of like everything I did was related to this one thing how the vocabulary that I used, like I started catching myself. And again, it always begins with when I did meditation, I noticed that a lot of the things I was telling myself are things like, I can't afford it. I'm not enough to have this thing. Um, I only have X amount of dollars in the bank account. Like these thoughts were just on a constant cycle going through my mind again and again and again. And when I observed it happening, I was able to say, I'm not going to think like that anymore. I'm going to think like this. And so I decided to, consciously made a decision to build a mindset that was based on abundance and gratitude. Right. And the thing is, though, I still find myself falling back into the scarcity mindset every day. Oh, and by the way, just one more book that's really important. I've got it up on my shelf here. It's called The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. Amazing book where they actually get into this as well. But that's what The Gap and the Gain is all about is, when you're um, defaulting to your scarcity mindset, you're in the gap and you're just feeling like, you don't have enough. Everything is less than. And the gain is when the opposite of that is the abundance mindset. So the thing is, like to your point, is that you can have the greatest business idea in the world and you can apply it and you can start to build your business. And because I love business, I'm always like applying my mindset to that. In most cases, I mean, you can apply it to everything else as well. But for business, it was like the scarcity mindset was holding me back from hiring people, holding me back from investing in the company. I always felt like I was, just spending money and I was just trying to hold on to it too much. And that's the one thing that will actually, like if it doesn't kill your business, it'll stop it from growing. Right. So yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's a very important thing to observe. And again, you don't have to do meditation to observe it, by the way, but you do have to be aware of when it's happening. And it's happening all the time. Like honestly, I think probably like, 90% of the people out there we all have a scarcity mindset, actually. Like we have the scarcity and the abundance mindset. And I think you can choose which one you want to listen to. Right. So,
Especially with regards to money, right? I mean, the scarcity mindset holds so true because no matter how much of money you have, you still feel it's not enough.
Yeah. Well, I love what Warren Buffett said. I think when someone had asked him, how much money is enough? And he said, just a little more. So, you know,
Now, talking about, a moment ago, you just mentioned something about clarity. Clarity is power. Now, how would one go about achieving clarity, especially with regards to, money related goals, setting up those goals at the beginning of the year, then monitoring those and, looking to achieve them.
yeah. So clarity just comes with knowing exactly what it is that you want. And maybe you don't know exactly what it is, but I mean, if you're 80% of the way there, that's still better than, just 10% or 20% of the way there. So, but to get to clarity, you really have to sit down and continue to like, and I do this every day because clarity is one of these things where you can be really clear on like on one day about like what you want, and the next day, you're back into a fuzzy mess. So you really have to practice. Like I think I call it the practicing clarity comes down to three things. First of all, making a decision as to what it is that you want. And the second thing is making a plan to get it. And the third thing is following through with that plan consistently. Like it's just 3 steps, right? And I think what it comes down to is like knowing what your goals are. But thing is, what happens with a lot of people when they sit down to work on their goals is that they struggle to get clarity on what their goals are because they never really decided what they wanted in the first place. Like they were always, I'll give you an example. Like a friend of mine, he, went to university, like a lot of us did, graduated, got a job, and then like many people got a mortgage and just kept going through life on autopilot, right? And this is probably not just his story; it's the story of a lot of people. And one day everything just kind of fell apart because he realized that all these things that he was working for weren't the real things that he wanted. He was just listening to everybody else, I guess. And basically, you know, he was working towards things that he thought would make other people happy, like, maybe his parents or his friends or society, for example, right? So he realized that his clarity came one day when he just decided that he wasn't going to do that anymore. He took a little bit of time out to actually sit down and did some real brainstorming with that. I think that that's something I think everybody should do is just sit down and do a mind map, but put your ideas down on paper and continue to ask yourself that question. What is the number one thing that I would be doing right now if I could just do this one thing? And, the other day I was having a coaching session with my mentor and he asked me that thing. We were trying to get clarity like 4 or 5 sessions into it. And we've been, working together for the last 4 months. And although I feel like I have clarity in some things, there are other things where I still don't have that clarity. And I realized because I wasn't going deep enough with it. And so my mentor just kept asking me, what is that one thing? Like we had identified 3 or 4 things, but he's like, what is that one thing that you really want? And it's okay to have multiple things, but that one thing right there is if you can just focus in on that one thing, your actions are going to align and you're going to start lining these things up. It's the 80-20 really, or the 90-10, or, like however you want to look at it, right? It's like, working on, spending 80% of your time on the 20% of the tasks that are going to get you, that thing you want. And that's where you get clarity. I spent a lot of time, like a lot of people, thinking I was always productive because, doing a lot of email and a lot of admin tasks and things like that, and spending 80% of my time on tasks that were not moving me towards my goals, right? In fact, they will move you away from it. You just feel busy, but at the end of the day, you got nothing done. Or you got a lot of things done that somebody else could have done for, if you'd outsourced it, right? Which I'm really big on outsourcing things. But I just probably still to this day don't do it as much as I should be. But yeah, that's where the clarity is going to come from is really just making a decision that you're in a place where, you want to change things. Right. And that's just going back to your question with how I got to Japan. I did that. I got clear on what I wanted because I made a vision board. I put a vision board up on my wall. I filled it with the pictures of all the things I say I wanted isn't like, it wasn't not all about me, but I knew that if I could figure out a way to make this dream come true, make this dream happen and build this dream life, then maybe I could teach it to other people as well. And that's really where I think the magic started happening inside, and the clarity will come from that. Like you'll know when you're onto something, or it's just going to click. You're going to feel it. You're going to be like, that's what I really want. And what happens with a lot of people is that, myself included, is that when I actually saw it for the first time, I'll give you an example, like building my publishing business and writing books. When I realized that that's what I really wanted to do, there were these little voices in my head that were saying, well, that's really a big dream. It's probably not, it's going to be really hard to do. And started coming up with all these excuses as to why I shouldn't do it. So I started, I would procrastinate and just, not, I didn't give up, but I mean, there were times when I just always had a lot of self doubt, uncertainty. And I got through a lot of that by just taking action, by just doing the first thing that I could do to move me towards that goal of, let's just say, writing a book, right? The first thing to get clear on that, because I knew I wanted to be an author more than anything. And so now I needed a book to prove it. So I would just, I created an outline and I just showed up every day to write, for an hour, maybe 2 hours. I did 1,000 words a day. I had my book within a few months, right? Or 4 months or something like that. So, but that's just it though. Like once you know what it is you want to do,
Yeah.
you just need to decide, what's the next step you need to take, and then just take that step consistently. And the first couple of steps you take may not be the steps that you should be taking consistently, but you got to try these things out. You've got to test it, right? So, you know, so clarity is kind of like, it's like you may feel like you're walking through a fog, but trust me, you keep walking through the fog and you keep figuring things out and testing things, and taking time out for yourself, and just continue to ask yourself that one question, like, what's that one thing I really want more than anything? You're going to get the answers, and write these things out too. Get a journal, write these things out, take 10 minutes before you go to bed, and think about these things, because, your subconscious is going to be working on this while you're sleeping. So,
I think that's so very well explained, Scott. And yes, I cannot tell enough in terms of the benefits of journaling. I mean, I myself started journaling a few years ago. I wish I did it much earlier. And I've seen how things have changed during this period. I mean, it's just helped me to be much more clearer and achieve so many different ambitions in terms of becoming a best-selling author and so on. So yes, journaling, I think for all our listeners is an absolute must, and you'd start seeing the benefits of it almost immediately. Now that brings me on to the next thing. So once we've got the clarity, how do we go about deciding what to do? And I think you're a big advocate of, doing the hardest things first. So one, decide on what that hardest thing is, and how does it actually help to contribute towards personal as well as professional growth?
for sure, yeah. So the first thing about doing the hard things first is really, it's not just a confidence booster, or it's not just to get things done, actually. The reason you want to do the hard things first is because, so here's my philosophy, is that you can either suffer now or you can suffer later. And this comes down to the first book, which is actually on how to overcome procrastination. That came about because of my chronic procrastination, which I struggled with and still do occasionally, on putting off the tasks that need to be done. And the reason I would put these things off, like most people, is because they're hard to do. And a lot of these hard tasks, I would always come up with excuses. Well, there's always tomorrow, or there's next week, or I have to wait for something to happen before I do this hard thing. But the thing is that when I put these things off, life got more difficult. It will get more difficult if you continue to put everything off. So what you want to do is, I think that your hard things to do. So I'll give you an example. Let's just go back to, writing a book as an example. One of the hardest things, and I coach authors all the time, and the hardest thing to do is to write the book. The marketing is really difficult too. That's a different topic. But, the hardest thing is actually to show up every day for yourself and put in that 1 hour. And, you know, when I'm coaching people through this, I'll meet with somebody like once every 30 days. And there's a lot of people who after 30 days, they haven't done any writing. It's like, well, why not? Well, I had this and that. But the reality is, the hard thing to do is to show up for yourself and put in that 1 hour, 2 hours to get your word count written, right? But the thing is that if you do it, you're going to have your book written. And we can relate this to, any business you want to build, or, doesn't matter if you're getting on a diet or going to the gym or working out, right? If you're working out, which is something I do regularly every week, I still have to get in the car, go to the gym. And during that whole time when I'm driving to the gym for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, occasionally I will bike there. But if I'm driving the car, I'm trying to think of ways not to go to the gym. Like I'm still trying to talk my way out of it, because working out is hard. I've been doing it for a long time, but it's always hard, getting the weights and doing that. It's who really wants to put themselves through that every day. But the thing is that when you get it done, when you have that workout, or when you've written, a chapter of your book, how do you feel after that? That's the goal. Like that's what you're going for, right? It's
I
hard because,
I
yeah.
think
So,
it's the same with achieving any goal, right? You know that satisfaction
mhm.
once you've achieved it. That's what you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So, you want that feeling afterwards of like, yeah, I did it, and then what that's going to do, it's going to give you momentum. So the next time you go to the gym or show up for yourself to do that hard thing, you're not going to be questioning yourself as much, right? You did it before and you can do it again. You just keep showing up and putting in the time. So
That's when you get the confidence as well.
confidence only comes from taking action, right? And taking action only comes from knowing what you want, So,
It's all related. Yes, absolutely. Now, talking of your books, Scott, if we can just dive a bit deeper into those three books that you were mentioning about. What does each
mhm.
book cover, and how would people get access to them?
Sure. So do the hard things first. There are three books in that series. I do have 35, 36 books out maybe, but the do the hard things first books. Yeah, you can find information by going to scottallanbooks.com or scottallanpublishing.com. We have two domains, two websites. And of course, they can always go to Amazon and find the books there. I think everything is on there. And so, with those three books in that series, so the first one is on overcoming procrastination, as I mentioned. The second book is on how to master self control. And mastering self control, it ties in with self discipline, which also ties in with doing hard things because if you can master self control and like mastering your habits, your self discipline, these things, you're going to find that doing the hard things isn't going to be as hard as you thought they were. Right. So that book ties in with the first one. And the third book is actually on how to break bad habits. So, just to define what a bad habit is any activity that you are taking action in or participating in that is, again, probably moving you away from your goals. And I know I mentioned goals a lot, but really, we have to be moving towards something, right? So, whether you're trying to get into the best shape of your life, you're trying to, build a company, create an online course, whatever it may be, you've got to establish what the goal is. And you might have multiple goals for that, big goal, but you've got to know what the goal is so that you can know what your actions are and then just reverse engineer everything. Right. And if you do that, you will be able to reduce the bad habits that you have. I still have a few of those that I'm working out. You'll be in more control of your life. In other words, like you'll have better self control and you're not going to be procrastinating as much. So really, that whole series is designed to give you great clarity on everything that you're trying to master. The fourth book that's coming out in a couple of months is on how to not manage, but I guess defeat shiny object syndrome. So
Nice. Okay. So I hope that book goes well as well. I've seen that you've sold more than 500,000 copies, which is mind-boggling, to be honest.
yeah, so we have publishing contracts with a lot of international publishers. So three of the publishers are in India, actually, and I think we have about 20 titles in the Indian store. And yeah, I mean Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Korea and Japan. We have a few titles here as well. But that's probably why we've been able to sell so many copies, is because we have a lot of other publishers that are helping us to achieve that goal. So,
Right. There's also another series of books that you've published with the title of Empower Your
mhm.
Thoughts, Success, Deep Focus. Talk us through about that, Scott.
Absolutely, yeah. So that is a series that is more niche. In other words, like as you mentioned, I have a couple of them here. So deep focus, and the other one is on confidence. We have 10 more titles. The other one that's coming out is on wealth. That series is really designed for people who, instead of just reading, a general book on self help and how to improve your life and stuff like that. I mean, those books are okay, but the goal with this series is to break it down into, if you want to, learn to empower your thoughts and gain greater clarity over your thinking, then empower your thoughts. That's book number 2 in the series. And, book number 3 is on how to empower your success. That's a little more general, but the book on focus is, the title tells you everything that the book's about, right? So we actually have a plan to release 24 books in this series. We're launching book number 12, as I mentioned, probably towards the end of next month. So, um, but that's really like, I think the core of my training is, teaching people how to take control of their lives, how to empower their lifestyle so that they can create the life they truly want, and that's really where I think that's the crux of all of the frameworks that I build and the training that I deliver. It's built around those core principles. So
Nice. So, for someone who wants to inculcate great habits on money and a great money mindset, what are some of the tips that you would like to share?
yeah, so that's a great question. So it's interesting because I think for like a good part of my life, I avoided a lot of things that had to do with talking about money. And, like a lot of people, like when I was growing up, it wasn't something we talked about in my family. So when you go to school, of course, we expect to learn a lot of these things in school. We don't. They don't teach us about money there. I won't get into all the reasons why. But once we get out of school, then we get into debt. And then, because we start to, buy things and da, and then on it goes. So here's what I did, and I'd recommend this to anybody. And this was recommended to me by people who have built a lot of wealth. And they just said, you have to make a decision that you no longer want to be poor. Right. And I'll just define what poor means. It's not like having empty pockets, right? I mean, maybe that's one part of it, but I think poor is about having a poor mindset, right? And this comes back to the scarcity mindset. And the one thing that is a game changer for me, and I'm still working on this every day, don't get me wrong, like it's an ongoing battle, but you have to recognize that you probably have thoughts and emotions that are tied to money that are actually holding you back from becoming rich. And you need to find out what those are. Not everything, you have to figure everything out, but you need to make a decision that, first of all, you want to destroy your scarcity mindset, right? Don't make an assumption that you don't have one, because I think we all do. And of course, people who have great financial wealth, they've obviously learned how to overcome that. Maybe they had it at one point, but one of the greatest things you can do is to educate yourself about money. And that doesn't mean going out and finding everything. Like, I'm not saying go and learn how Wall Street works or figuring out, investments and things like that. Not that kind of information. You want to just learn about how money works and how are you actually thinking about money? Because that's really why most people are failing at it. That's why I failed at it for many years, is I actually avoided talking about money in my relationships, in my family. And as a result, I just continue to carry over the same mindset. Successful in publishing business, sure, yes, but it would have been much more. It'll be a lot more successful. Um, once I have like the abundance mindset, as that becomes stronger, everything gets better. Like, your business gets better, your attitude becomes better, and suddenly you're not afraid of money. Because that was actually the one thing that it holds a lot of people back, and it certainly was holding me back, was the fear of money. And the fear of money is really the fear of not having money, right? But then there's another fear. There's the fear of, what if I get a lot of money? What will I do with it? And that's the thing, is that a lot of people may say they want to be rich, but if they actually had 10, 20, 30 million dollars in the bank, um, what would you do with it? And when someone actually asked me that, I couldn't answer it because I didn't know. And I think the default for a lot of people is like, well, I would buy this, buy this, buy this, right? And because we're just taught to consume, consume, consume. But again, just coming back to figuring out how money works and educating yourself on that. So I'm watching podcasts on that. I'm reading books on that. The Psychology of Money. I think that's a great book. The Killing Sacred Cows. Like, these are the kinds of books that I wasn't reading these, like 3, 4, or 5 years ago. But now I've gone through dozens of them in the last year. And I can honestly say, just by educating myself around money, it's made me more confident about how I feel about money. Like, now I'm not, I don't walk into a store anymore and go, I'm going to buy the cheapest good on it. I actually will, maybe I won't buy the most expensive thing, but I'm not buying the cheapest thing, because I realize, like, by actually getting something of value that I really want, getting the thing I really want, has completely changed my mindset around the value that I place on things and the value I place on myself. So anyway, that's probably like just the number one takeaway is, like, educate yourself on how money works, not about figuring out the stock market. I mean, if you're already doing that, that's great. Maybe you may be in a good place with that. And if you are, what the second thing I would do, once you start to get educated on that, start to teach it to other people. Like, I started to talk about money more to my kids and to my friends. And what I realized is that when I talked about it to other people, sometimes they were uncomfortable with it. And I realized, wow, other people don't want to talk about it either, because they're scared of it too. Right. So teach it, like, and you'll actually become more confident about, your relationship with money. Like, that's really, I think, one of the most important relationships you can have outside of your human relationships is your relationship with money and how you relate to it. Because I always related it to something as, something I could never have. And I was never born into like a rich family. I just came up with all these excuses as to why I could never really have it. Meanwhile, I'm actually, we're actually making pretty good money with books and stuff like that. But the money would just like kind of go in and go out. And I realized that managing it was another difficult. So there's like a whole string of things that once I was able to attack the scarcity mindset, the other thing is, like, with money management, that all started to improve, like, not just with confidence, but I actually felt really good about, I felt confident about the fact that I could actually go out there and make $1 million, not just waiting for it to fall into my lap or hoping that someday, I don't play the lottery, but a lot of people talk about playing the lottery. And my friend of mine said that when he goes, yeah, I'll be rich when I win the lottery. And I said, well, do you buy tickets? And he goes, no. So I was like, well, you've got to buy tickets to win the lottery. So how this relates to that is that if you want to become rich, you do have to start with the mindset, because it's not about how much money you're making. You could make a lot of money and lose it a week later,
I think
right? If
it's
you're
so
not.
true. I mean, we've seen so many celebrities, so many top sports personnel around the world who've earned lots of millions of dollars of money and then just lost it almost overnight, and or didn't know how to spend it, and just total mismanagement.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right. So yes, I think just adds to that on just what you were explaining.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Mike Tyson, who I think is just great. Like, Mike Tyson, he talks about that. At one point in his career, when he was at the height of his career, he was worth like $300 million. And, he went bankrupt like years later. Sure, he went, a lot of things had happened. But in an interview, though, and he said this, like, an interview, he said, like, I think it was on the Howard Stern show. And he said to Howard Stern, like, I just didn't know how to manage my money. And of course, he had someone else managing it for him. I won't mention who, but we all know. And, but, that was, like, that was only one example, though. But you're right. It happens to people who have like tens of millions of dollars. It can happen, and, if so that's just the thing, is like educating yourself about money, and then just, from there you can teach other people how to manage their, like, educate other people on how it works as well. And then treat yourself to something really nice, like, don't hold back thinking that you have to scrimp and save. Because here's the last thing that I'll mention is that, when I was growing up, like, we were always taught to, like, get a good job and save your money for retirement, and that was the big thing, is like, you always had there was always that scarcity. It wasn't just a scarcity mindset. We're not born with this, I think. It's like, it's something that's drilled into us. And it's not just from, like, your family, by the way. The banks, the institutions, they're all teaching you the same thing. They want you to be afraid of it as well, because that's when, they want to lend money to people who are probably going to use it to buy stuff, but I think that, um, for me, like, I was always afraid of losing the money. So I would, like, borrow money and, like, buy an expensive car and things like that. But the thing is that my mindset around this now is not spending money, but investing the money into, not only like stock investments. I mean, that's one thing, but investing it into my business or into products that I can put into the marketplace, because that's going to create passive income, which is another form of, instead of like saving money, you can create passive income funnels. If you create a passive income funnel, it does take time to build that out. But now you've got money coming in. I'll call it passive income, which, by the way, that's a different topic. But passive income does take a lot of, it takes time and effort to build it out. But once you do, you've got money coming in consistently anyway. So and I'm not saying don't save your money, but you don't have to, kind of like feeling like you've got to hold on to it for dear life, because I think the tighter I tried to hold on to it, the less control I had over it. It just seemed to disappear anyway. So yeah.
You'll even have money coming while you sleep if you build a dream.
Exactly. That is the dream. Yeah. Making money while you sleep. Yeah. And I know that's not everybody's not doing that. Right. But they're like, I think you have to open yourself up to the opportunity that money is not as scarce. Like everything is in abundance in this universe. I believe that. Right. And, we're just, we get a lot of conflicting messages that we have to scrimp and save, and because we have to save for a rainy day. Like that was one of the things that I learned, is like there are all these old sayings that have been around forever, like save your money for a rainy day, and you have to save for the future, and all these things. But and I'm not saying that we shouldn't do these things,
Mhm.
but the thing is that that just creates a lot of fear around you. Like I heard something the other day where someone said, "Oh, if you're in your 40s and you haven't saved $2 million by now, it's too late for you." And I don't know where this stuff comes from, but maybe there is a point in your life where it is too late. If you only got a few weeks to live and you don't have any money, well, maybe. But it's never too late, because it's never too late to change your mindset. It's never too late to, shift gears and do something new with your life, no matter how old you are. Like that's the thing, is like it's never too late for these things. You make that decision that it's too late. Like you're the one in control of that decision. So
It absolutely is never too late. Thank you, Scott, for that. So, whilst we look to wrap up, who are some of your top influencers, or who are some of the inspirational, motivational speakers that you follow on a regular basis?
yeah, so one of my top influencers, motivators would be Tom Bilyeu with Impact Theory. I think Tom's great, delivers amazing content. So you can check out, his interviews at Impact Theory. He's got quite a few interviews on wealth as well. He's talked to a lot of people in the industry. Um, Probably Jay Shetty, which he has the On Purpose podcast. Love his material. And probably Ed Millett. Ed Millett is, he also has a podcast, but just amazing people. And Mel Robbins too. I love her stuff too. Like they just deliver very direct and material that you can take their strategies and you can implement. I think that's really what it's all about, is just listen to somebody who's like talking the talk and walking the walk, right? And you can see them doing this in their everyday life as well. And of course, I love Tony Robbins. Like I think Tony is really, when I look back to how I got to Japan and got onto this path, I think Tony had a lot to do with that, because I read one of his books back in the day, was Awaken the Giant Within. And back in the day, I mean, like 30 years ago, I read that book, and that actually got me working on my goals. My goals got me to got me onto an airplane, that got me overseas, that got me living a dream that I once, had only dreamed of. So, but yeah, those are some of my top influencers. I probably have like 20 more, but, I think for now, like if you were to just, start watching some of their podcasts, I think Jay Shetty has a book called Think Like a Monk, and Tony Robbins has Awaken the Giant Within, two amazing books. I love reading books. I'm always recommending other people's books. And of course, you could always pick up, my books as well. But I think like there's a lot of books out there, and I think it's good to diversify as well. Like just learn from several people. So
No, I think that's great, Scott. I think this has been a great episode with lots of valuable contents that you've mentioned for our listeners rather, and I'm sure some of them will pick up your books as well. So, any final thoughts, Scott, whilst we look to wrap up? And if you can also share your social media handles and how people can get in touch with you once again.
Sure, yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at Scott Allan Author and on Facebook as well. And you can go to scottallanbooks.com. We have a Shopify store set up there, scottallanpublishing.com. And we'll be releasing some courses this year as well. So if you get onto the email list, you'll get the latest updates on that. All right. And my final parting words is just take some time out for yourself and spend 10, 15 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, just like as we mentioned, journaling, yes, but write down your, you don't have to write down your goals per se, but I mean, write down the things that you desire the most. And if these are things that you find yourself going, wow, like, I don't really know if I should be talking about this. This is a pretty big goal. You're on the right track, right? Because that's the thing is like, we tend to confine our goals and our dreams into a little box where it's comfortable, like a comfortable goal is not really, you might actually achieve that goal tomorrow or in a week from now, but you're not going to be fully satisfied, right? So it's got to be something that really scares you, like a big, hairy, audacious goal, right? So it's what you want to eventually go for and just keep working at it. It is a lot of work, but just think of where you could be 1 year from now, right? 3 months from now, actually, and visualize what that future looks like for yourself.
Tony Robbins talks of it as moonshot goals. So yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, shoot for the moon.
I think each of us should aim for that, so we'll get at least somewhere there. Thanks, Scott. I think it's been a great session having you. I'm sure we've got lots more to talk about. Probably we can have another session in the future as well. But really want to appreciate and thank you for coming on the show and sharing all those valuable experiences, your thoughts, and all the great work that you've been doing. I hope that everything goes well with your future books and the courses that you mentioned. And I'm sure our listeners will want to get hands on onto them. So thank you once again, Scott. Have a great day.
It's been a pleasure. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
When the bills keep piling up and your wallet's feeling light, you're searching for a way to make it all right. Unsure of where to turn or what to do, MoneyMasterHQ.com has got the tools for you. Empower your life with financial success. Through education, expert guidance, we're the best. MoneyMasterHQ.com will show you the way to reach your goals and make your dream. Dive into a world where dreams of wealth align. With MoneyMasterHQ, watch your fortune shine. Cash in on knowledge, let wisdom be your guide. In the realms of finance, with us you'll stride. $1,000,000 mindset is what we instill at MoneyMasterHQ.com. The financial hill. Empower your journey with wisdom you'll listen. Our mission's clear, just stop and listen. Whoa. From basics to brilliance, our book leads the way. Accounting fundamentals, making finance play. For managers, for dreamers, in numbers we trust. With our guidance, success is a must. Yeah, into yours keep piling up, and your wallet's feeling light. You're searching for a way to make it all right. Unsure of where to turn or what to do, MoneyMasterHQ.com has got the tools for you. Empower your life with financial success. Oh yeah. Through education, expert guidance, we're the best. MoneyMasterHQ.com will show you the way to reach your goals and make your dreams stay.